So, good morning. Yes, good morning to all of you. So, today we'll continue mathematics, which are used for cryptography here. So, we shall continue. So, today I'm going to talk very important points. First one is primes, second one is LS rule, then Fermat's rule, and then followed by the Chinese remainder problem. These are the four different types of points I'd like to mention here. So let us continue. Let's get started here. So here, uh, prime numbers. As far as the prime numbers are being concerned, we are very well versed of these prime numbers in our first year onwards. So that is a prime number, an integer which is greater than one is a prime number if and only if the divisors might be plus or minus 1 and plus or minus p. Let me consider. So the divisors might be 1 and itself, either it is in negative or positive. If it is negative number, divisors might be in negative. If it is positive number, so divisors might be in positive. That is the meaning here. And co-primes, it's very important. Prime number is not doesn't make that much particular sense here, but co-primes are very important while talking something. Co-primes are relatively primes will be always specifies if any two numbers. You could consider any two numbers. Those two numbers might be either A and B. A and B are two numbers. These two will be relatively prime numbers or pro-prime numbers. Both are same. Both the words are same. If GCD of A and B must be equal to 1. Okay, if you take some A will be equal to some 5 and B will be equal to some 2 and GCD between these two, GCD of 5 and 2 must be equal to 1, then such kind of condition will be satisfied, then 5 and 2 are co-primes. Okay, and there is a special case here as far as the co-primes are concerned, that is number 1. The integer 1 is relatively prime to every natural number. Okay, every natural number. So integer 1 will be relatively co-prime, otherwise a co-prime here. And let us consider if one more case will be there here. This is the special case. One more case is if p will be the prime number. For example, p will be the prime number, and whatever the number of elements up to p minus 1, they will be relatively prime numbers to the p. Let us consider. So 7 will be one particular p. P will be equal to 7. Then let me consider here set of values which are available. So before 7, right away from 1 to before 7 is so 1, 2, 3, 4, so 5 and 6. If you apply GCD of any one of these numbers, the GCD of 1 comma 7 equal to 1, GCD of 2 comma 7 equal to 1, GCD of 3 comma 7 equal to 1, and so on and so forth up to GCD of 6 comma 7 also equal to 1 here. So common greatest divisor will be equal to 1 between any of these numbers which are available here. So therefore, if p is a prime number, then all the integers up to 1 up to p minus 1 are relatively prime numbers, are co-primes to p. So this is the this is the case which we have to consider in terms of co-primes or relatively primes here. Then followed by how could you calculate number of primes which are available for a particular number. So here number of primes for p which is equal to 7, number of co-primes which are equal to 7 will be equal to 6. Already we have taken this particular thing here. Okay, so 1 to p minus 1 are co-primes for a particular p. For example, some p will be equal to, one more example, p will be equal to some 17. If you take 17, how many number of co-primes are available here is, so 16 co-primes are available here, because 1 to 16, if you consider or if you calculate the GCD of 1 to 16 with 17, so it will be leads you 1. Okay, therefore, the number of co-primes which are available with this particular 17 will be 16. Now I am talking, this is what about co-primes and relatively primes. Now I am talking about how many number of primes are available less than or equal to some particular number. Let me say n. If I would take some n will be equal to 10, so how many number of primes are available here? If n equal to 10, so let me calculate 2 is one prime, 3 is another prime, 5 is another prime, and 7 also one more prime. After this, 8 is not a prime, 9 is not a prime, 10 itself also is not a prime. So how many here in the sense? 4. 4 number of prime numbers are available. So if you take one particular value as n here. So to identify this particular thing for a specific trivial value, trivial in the sense biggest value. We take biggest value, how it could be gets identified. This could be identified, this could be calculated by using a formula that is pi of n. So which was given by two eminent personalities, Gauss and let me eliminate Gauss and so Lagrange. These are the two people. Gauss has been discovered upper limit of the number of prime numbers which are available for a particular number up to a particular number, not for up to a particular number. Lagrange has discovered the lower limit of the so a particular number. How many number of primes are available here? How many number of primes will be calculated using pi of n here? So, for example, if you consider one particular number, that number will be okay. That number will be equal to n will be equal to, so for example, 1 lakh. So followed by 1, so something like this. 1 lakhs or 10 lakhs, something like this. Okay, it is 10 lakhs, I think. So 10 lakhs. Then how many number of primes are available within this particular number? 1 to this particular number, how many number of primes are available? So there is a specific calculation which is being taken into consideration here. Let me take that particular calculation on opening this CALC. So look at this. So what we are supposed to operate, ln of n must be gets identified. That must be divided by n. Then you could get how many number of primes before, lower bound of that particular primes, and this could be the upper bound. Let me calculate this one. So my value is 1, 1, 2, 3. Just wait, verify. Number like this did not get some. So 2, 3, 5, 6, yes. Okay, 10 lakhs actually, 10 lakhs. So I have to operate this ln. If you operate ln, so 13.8155. 13.8155 is the ln value of 10 lakhs here. Okay, so now you can calculate that. So 13.815, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by 13.8155. If you take this one, so these are the number of prime numbers which are available. So total number of prime numbers will be 72,382. So our lower bound will be 72,382. 82 number of primes will be available. It is not the prime number actually. These many number of primes will be available, which is identified by Lagrange. Lagrange has been identified this one. And as well, so if you take Gauss identification, let me consider, so whatever the n value, ln value you have to take into consideration. Let me consider, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay. Of ln has been taken into consideration. So 13.8155. So 13.8155 minus 1.08366. If you take this particular thing, you could get some particular value. So this value is this one. So let me copy this value for a while. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by that particular value. If you take that particular value, so there is a possibility to have, this is the lower limit, and upper limit will be, so 78,000. Wait for a while, let me copy this. 78,543. So 543 number of prime numbers will be available. So before 0 to, within the range of 0 to, so 10 lakhs here. So to identify how many number of primes will be calculated, so by taking this particular formula. So it is very tedious to operate. So to calculate how many number of primes by mention them. So as just before, I have mentioned something like that. We take n equal to 10. So 2 comma 5 comma 3 comma 5 comma 7 comma something like that. If you want to list out all those things, it would take huge amount of time. So these are not exact values. These are approximate values actually. These are approximate values. So you could have a particular output that this is the upper limit. So we would like to consider these many number of what do you call prime numbers will be available for n will be equal to 10 lakhs here. So it has been identified by these two people. So then followed by checking for primality. So primeness, if you consider any number, so if you consider let me consider 17. If you take into consideration 17, 17 is a prime number. So you have to take 17 and I mean n will be equal to 17. Identify what is the root value of that particular thing. It may be gives you something. Before this root value, if you identify how many number of primes are there, if any number, I mean, if with any prime number 17 will be goes, then that will be not considered as a prime. Otherwise, it is a prime. I'll give you a specific example. So because 17 root will be somewhat problem to identify because it is very small value. So let me take one specific example here, then you could understand very clearly. So let me consider n will be equal to 97. 97 in the sense which is approximately equal to 10. So square root of n, which is equal to square root of 97, so which is approximately equal to 9. Okay, approximately equal to 9. And list out how many number of not how many, list out the prime numbers below 9. Prime numbers are 2 is one prime number, 3 is another prime number, 5 is another prime number, and 7 also another prime number. So these are the prime numbers which are available with us. If 97 will be goes with any one of these numbers, then 97 cannot be a prime number. If 97 cannot be goes with any of these numbers, then 97 will be considered as a prime number. Let me repeat one more time. Take one particular number, whatever the number it might be. So identify its square root value. So you could get some kind of square root value. So 97 square root will be approximately equal to 9. And identify, so or list out the prime numbers which are available before 9. These are the prime numbers which are available before 9. And so apply for division of each and every number by 97 here. So 97 divided by 2, whether it is completely divisible or not. Let us, I mean, remainder equal to 0 or not. If remainder will becomes 0, obviously 97 could not be considered as a prime. So if remainder is not equal to 0, then 97 will be considered as a prime number here. So this is the way to identify so primeliness of any particular number. But this is somewhat tedious, but cryptography is using this particular kind of approach only while trying to identify so primeness of one particular value here. So you need to identify, so if a number is divisible by all primes less than square root of n, then such numbers are known as prime numbers. They are not supposed to be divisible. Probably I wrote something wrong here. If number is divisible by all primes less than not divisible, it is not not divisible. You need to please include not here. So if a number is not divisible by all primes less than square root of n, such numbers are known as prime numbers. So this is the specification you need to understand regarding to prime numbers here. So we have taken 4 different types of things from prime numbers. Number 1, the definition of a prime number here. Number 2, so relatively prime numbers or co-prime numbers. Number 3, the number of prime numbers for one particular number, that is n. So what is that particular thing? And checking for primeliness, whether a given number is prime or not. So how could you check out this particular thing? Okay. So these are the 4 points we have considered here, as far as the primes are being taken into consideration. Okay. Then followed by next one is Euler-Stochert function. So primes are very important while considering this cryptography. You need to remember this prime number forever and ever until cryptographic applications are being gets over. I mean, this subject is gets over for you. Okay. However, so let us come across this one. So in 1640, Euler and 1642, Fermat, two people are there. These two people have created two different types of functions. Let us have a small discussion regarding to Euler's totient function here. Normally, Euler's totient function will be defined with phi, defined with phi. So phi function, and this is also called as Euler's phi function. Okay, and which has been defined something like this. Euler's totient function has been defined something like this. So just before I have given some information, same thing will be replicated here, reiterated here. The number of positive integers less than n that are co-prime to n. So what does it means? Let us consider. Just I have taken one example to you. If n will be equal to, for example, if n will be equal to some 10. So you need to identify all positive integers which is less than n. So which are co-primes to this particular number. Let me calculate the co-prime set here. Co-prime set will be, so co-prime in the sense GCD of that particular number comma n will be equal to 1. That is the co-prime. So 1 will be co-prime for this particular 10, and the 2 is not co-prime because GCD of 2 comma 10 equal to 2. So therefore that is not co-prime. So 3 will be. So 3 will be co-prime for 10 because GCD of 3 comma 10 will be equal to 1. So 4 will not be the co-prime here because 4 comma 10 GCD of 4 comma 10 equal to 2. So therefore that is not co-prime. And 5 is also not co-prime for 10 because 5 comma 10 GCD of 5 comma 10 equal to 5. 6 also not GCD, not co-prime because 6 comma 10 equal to 2. And 7, yes, 7 is so co-prime because GCD of so 7 comma 10 equal to 1. 8 could not be. So GCD of 8 comma 10 equal to 2. And then 9, yes, 9 could be so co-prime for this particular thing. So these are all the co-prime set. So this particular co-prime set does have four numbers. So phi of phi of so n will be equal to so phi of where n will be substitute the value of n here 10 will be equal to so 4 here. So it is being identified how many number of co-primes which are available 1 to just n minus 1. So that is the point we need to understand here. Okay, and as usual, so here also one special case will be there. So phi of 1 equal to 0. Co-primes for 1 equal to nothing. No co-prime is available for 1. This is first property you need to remember in Euler's quotient function. And phi of p equal to p minus 1 provided p is a prime. If p is a prime, then how many number of so co-primes will be available for p are so p minus 1. So just before I have taken one example here also, let me take one particular example. So if n will be equal to 7, how many number of co-primes are there here? So in the sense the set may contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all these things are called as the co-primes for that particular number because it is a prime number. So because of prime number, it doesn't have any other GCD of any number which is less than this 7 will be not greater than 1 here. So that these are all the co-primes for 7 here. So totally how many number of co-primes are there? P minus 1. If P will be equal to 7, 6 co-primes will be available. So these are the 2 points you need to remember. And these are very, very important while implementing RSA algorithm and so Diffie-Hellman algorithm. Okay, these two are very, very important for us. And then, so here we have taken into consideration Euler's quotient function in the sense it is represented by using phi. And what exactly this could be if number of so positive integers which are less than n that are to be co-primes for that particular n. Okay, so examples will be something seems like this. So this is the way to identify the co-primes. It shall not be display or it shall not be give the set of values. It could be display only the number. Yes, these are the co-primes which are available for you. That's all. Okay. So two conditions are there. Phi of 1 equal to 0. For 1, there is no co-prime. And phi of p, where p will be a prime, then number of co-primes will be p minus 1. That is what you need to remember here. Then followed by, next one is Fermat's theorem. So what exactly this Fermat's theorem will be specifies? What exactly it could be specifies here is, Fermat's theorem is always trying to identify congruency. Congruency in the sense, let me explain this one. If P is a prime, this particular P is a prime, then P does not divides A completely. What does it mean? So A modulus of P, so not equal to 0. That is the meaning of this one here. So not equal to 0. So P does not divides A, then A power P minus 1 congruently equal to 1 modular division of P. A power P minus 1 congruently is equal to 1. So congruently is equal to 1 modular division P. Okay. What does it mean? Let us take one example, then you could understand very easily. Okay. Then what exactly this one? Consider P will be equal to 5. Consider P will be equal to 5. Let me calculate right away from 2 onwards. So 2 power 5 minus 1, which is congruently equal to 5 here. 2 power 5 minus 1 in the sense 2 power 4. 2 power 4 in the sense 16. So 16 modulus of 5 will be equal to actually 1. So that is what the equality has been displayed. Okay, 16 modulus of 5 equal to 1 here. 2 power 4, congruently equal to 1, which is modulus of 5. 2 power 4 modulus of 5 will be equal to 1. That is the meaning here. Similarly, 3 power 4 congruently equal to 1. 3 power 4 in the sense, so 3 3s are 9, 9 to 27 to 81. So 81 modulus of, so 5 will be equal to 1 here again. So that is why it's also be get satisfied. And then 4 power 4, so congruently equal to 1 mod 5. It's also be get satisfied. But whereas first condition will be gets false for 5. 5 power 4, you can see 5 power 4 is equal to 0 modulus of 5, because P does not divides A properly. So whatever the value it might be, so power 4 or power 5, power 6, whatever the value it may be, the last value which will comes for this particular powers, either it might be 5 or it might be 0. So if it is either 5 or 0 will be the last number, 5 will be completely divided, so that you may be get the remainder as 0. So 5 square in the sense 25. 25. For example, I am taking, so 25 modulus of so 5 will be equal to 0. So this Fermat's theorem could not be satisfied for such kind of numbers. If you take any kind of value, so this particular value could be taken into consideration. This value could not be divided by the prime number completely. Then only Fermat's theorem will be gets accessed. And let us continue furthermore. So 6 power 4, so is equal to 1 mod 5. Yes, it is also true. And so on and so forth up to 9. 10 will be obviously satisfied, because 10 power 5 or 10 power 4 or 10 power 2 or 10 power 1 modulus of 5 will be equal to 0 actually. That could not be satisfied. And go ahead with 11, 12, 13, 14. Yes, it is true. Then 15, it is not supposed to be true. So to identify such kind of items, so you need to specify so this Fermat's theorem. Why it could be taken into consideration? While implementation of a cryptographic algorithms, you don't have that much time to evaluate the cryptographic algorithm. So that is why you have to use these kind of functions to evaluate very simply. So that is the basic point where exactly you have to take into consideration of so this Fermat's little theorem. Okay, not exactly this one, primality or Chinese remainder theorem or Euler's rule theorem, whatever it may be, whatever the theorem you have to take into consideration, everything will be so identified immediately without taking huge amount of time. Everything will be taken into consideration to identify immediately. We have implemented these. So then followed by the Fermat's little theorem. Let me take one particular example, one specific example for this one here. So find the remainder find the remainder when you divide 3 power so 1 lakh by 53. 53 is a prime number actually. 53 is a prime number. And finally, you need to identify so the remainder for this particular value. So here, let us consider. So let us consider 53 is a prime number and which is not divided by 3. So therefore, it could be possible. So 53 is a prime number. P should not be divided. So A completely. So that is the yes already it is available here. P should not divide so A completely. So A modulus of P must not equal to 0. That must be satisfied. Yes, it could be satisfied here. So that this problem will be continued. How this could be continued is 3 power 53 minus 1 equal to 1. I mean congruently equal to 1. So modulus 53. It could be also specifies that. So 3 power 52 congruently equal to 1 modulus 53 because minus 1. So here, what actually you are supposed to take into consideration that so you need to identify when 3 power 3 raised to this particular value, what is the remainder? That is our main motto. So raise the power on both sides with a larger power. How could you raise this one here in the sense? So take this particular value divided by 52. So it maybe gives you some particular value, not actually divided by modulus of. If you take this particular thing, obviously you could get a coefficient as 1923. I think yes, 1923 is 1923 is a coefficient and remainder equal to 4 here. Okay, so 3 power 52 whole power 1923 equal to so 1 power 1923 modulus of 53. So if you multiply these two, you could get 99,996. So congruently equal to this one. Obviously, if you want to make this particular value to 1 lakh or 10 lakhs. 1, 2, 3,000. Okay, 1 lakh only. So wanted to make this particular value for 1 lakh. So you need to increase. So 3 will be increased for 4 more times. If you take like this, so it will becomes. So 3 power 1 lakh will be equal to 3 power 4 will be equal to 81. So modulo division of 53. Afterwards, so you have to identify what is the remainder for this one. If you apply modulo division for 81 here, if you apply modulo division of 81 modulus of 53, you maybe have 28 as the remainder. So therefore, so if you are supposed to apply 3 power 1 lakh modulo division of 53 will be gives you 28 as so the remainder. 28 will be the remainder. So in this way, you can identify, you can use to so get the remainders also. Okay, you can use to so get the remainders also. And followed by Chinese remainder theorem. It is very, 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 very important. So and you do have this particular problem with you in your final examination also. Let me go ahead with this one. This problem is very, very important. So try to go through this particular problem. The Chinese remainder theorem is always used to what is this? Chapana. What do you mean by Chapana? Some charting is being happening. Sai Chinni. What I don't know what is that. Okay. However, so Chinese remainder theorem is used to solve set of congruences. Number of congruences will be taken with the different modulo values, so which are relatively prime, such as x equal to a1 modulus of m1 congruently equal to a1 modulus of m1, x equal to a2 modulus of m2, and so on and so forth. So x will be equal to an modulus of modulo division of mn. So look at this. These are different kinds of values here. A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and so on, An. And modulus values also different values here. So even then you have taken this many by taking one single number. If you observe all these values at the left hand side, everything is x only. X modulo division of m1 will be gives you a1 as remainder. X so modulo division of m2 will be gives you a2 as remainder. X modulo division of m3 will be gives you a3 as remainder. So by taking one single value modulo division of different elements m1, m2, m3, m4, and so on, mn. So you may get different kinds of remainders here, and these m1, m2, m3, and so on and so forth will be relatively prime numbers. That is the point here you need to observe. Okay, you need to observe in such a fashion. Then followed by, it could be perform such kind of operation. Let me give you the specific definition for this one. Specific definition is this one here, same actually. So look at this, let n1, n2, n3, and so on, nk are pairwise relatively prime numbers, and then a1, a2, a3, and so on, ak are any kind of integers. Then there exist an unique integer x modulo capital M, which is equal to n1 into n2. I mean, what does it mean? Capital M will be equal to this value. That is the meaning here. So x modulo division of M will be equal to, so n1 into n2 into nk. So you have some values here, then which satisfies the linear congruencies which are having like this. X congruently equal to a1 modulo n1, and x congruently equal to a2 modulo n2, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. And you could have, so how could you calculate this particular value of x here in the sense, a1 into capital M1 into y1 plus a2 into capital M2 into y2, and so on and so forth. So ak into capital mk into yk modulo division of m, where m have, how could you get this m here in the sense, m will be get something like this, m equal to n1 into n2 into, and so on. So nk here, by taking, by multiplying all these values, you could get m here. Then each mi, here we have taken m1, m2, mk, and so on. How could you get this one here in the sense, the m divided by, so ni. So you get this particular m here, m equal to n1 into n2 into, and so on, nk. Each mi will be, m suffix I will be get m divided by n1, followed by m2 will be m divided by n2, followed by m3 will be m divided by n3, something like that. So likewise, you have to get this particular term. And how you could get y? Y will be mi into yi equal to 1 modulo division of ni. Ni in the sense, if you want to identify first y1, so m1 into y1 will be congruently equal to 1 modulo division of n1. So that is the meaning here. Then how could you consider all those issues here in the sense? So here you need to concentrate. This is the first one. First item which is being taken into consideration is all the equations you have given will be considered as first point here, because here you have as much as much information will be there to identify, to calculate x value. That is a1, a2, a3, a4, everything will be available to calculate x value here. And then n1, n2, n3, and so on, nk, everything is available here. This is the first point you need to observe. And second point will be, what are a1, a2, a3? Are they different kinds of positive integers or not? You need to identify positive integers or not. So this is second one. And the third one is you need to identify, so how could you calculate the value of x? The value of x will be gets calculated something like this. This is the third point you need to consider. Third point. And the fourth point is, how could you calculate m value, not x modulo m, so just m value. This is the fourth point you need to identify. And fifth point will be, so what is the premises to be calculated mi value? Mi value will be taken into consideration for something like this, mi equal to capital M divided by ni. This is the fifth point you need to consider here. And finally, the sixth point is, how could you calculate so mi into yi? So how could you calculate this one? So here totally 6 parts are available within this particular problem. Okay. First of all, you need to consider what m1, m2, sorry, n1, n2, n3, and so on. Then followed by what about the nature of a1, a2, a3, and so on. Whether a1, a2, a3 are positive integers or negative integers, you need to identify. And followed by, how could you calculate x value? To calculate x value, what are the different parameters we may require? You need to identify them. Then followed by, within the calculation of x value, we are actually required capital M. How could you calculate that capital M? You must be focused on that. Then followed by, you have to focus on how, so MI, each MI value could be gets calculated. You have to focus on that. Then followed by YI value. So if you take all these things, finally you could get X value here. So to achieve this particular thing, achievement of this particular thing, you may be taken into consideration all these issues here. So this is what about the Chinese remainder problem. Of course, while giving this kind of explanation is not sufficient actually. It is not sufficient actually. By taking one example, then it could be very easy to understand. Okay, so we are running out of time. Only 1 minute is available. At any moment of time, the video will be, my class will be gets cut. So just wait for some 15 minutes. I will come back to you and let me explain how Chinese remainder theorem will be gets evaluated.